I guess there's many ways to define open innovation, but one way to view it is to think of it as having the humility to work together, corporate, startups, and academia, in order to contribute to the progress of agriculture and farms and farmers around the world. I would possibly, and that's a bias coming from OCP, specify particularly in the global south, where the challenges and opportunities are great. Startups are vital to companies like us in that they are much closer to disruptions, and they act as eye-openers for corporations like us. We do think that the combination between a long-term experience, 100 years old history, and the scale that we have, together combined with the agility of startups, the new ways of thinking of startups, the speed and the seeing things differently that the startups bring are unique combinations. So in a way, this interaction is absolutely essential to the growth of OCP, but also to the global agriculture in general. OCP has been in transformation for the past decade, and essentially I'd like to think of it as a 100-year-old startup, because we were founded in 1920, but we also transformed so much over the last decade that we feel as a startup. And to illustrate this, from the staff with an average age of 45 years old, we moved to 35 years old in 10 years. We lost 10 years in 10 years. So the spirit of innovation has been accompanying this transformation. And now, more concretely, we have several initiatives. I'd say the foundational ones are a large initiative that we launched across the whole group, which is called Le Mouvement, which is essentially consisting of empowering people from anywhere in the company, whether our mining sites, our chemical sites, our headquarters, and even our subsidiaries outside of Morocco. Whoever has an idea can form groups, spontaneous groups, and can craft time out of its daily job to pursue this opportunity. And I'll say a little bit more about this later, but think of it as a giant incubator. We do have also several other initiatives internally, like the Bloom Lab, which is an accelerator, which basically takes internally bred startups to accelerate them. And obviously, because we're talking about open innovation, we have a partnership with the university that we've sponsored, University Mohammed VI Polytechnique in Ben Guerir, which hosts a large partnerships around innovations and startup promotion. We have partnerships typically with Mass Challenge. We have built an incubator accelerator called Impulse, and we also have partnerships with Plug and Play and several other key partners around the world. And so this is a way for us to connect not only with academia, but also with startups outside. Lastly, we are in the process of setting up a corporate venture capital in the US, and I'll talk a little bit more about it, to allow for direct investment in partner startups. The way we're organized, as I said, first, we make sure that it is in our DNA to be innovative, and that's linked to the perpetual transformation that we've embarked in, so to speak, in 2006. In order to visualize a simple way that we organize open innovation at OCP is threefold. There's an internal piece that's carried by Le Mouvement. There's an external piece, non-capitalistic, that's carried by the University Mohammed VI Polytechnique, our prime partner, and that ties in academia. And there's a third piece, which is, I would call it, external capitalistic, which consists of M&A, which consists of venture capital investments and partnerships that we do directly with startups to help them thrive and grow. And sometimes we complement investment opportunities with we actually start by finding a commercial partnership with startups to help them scale, and then we tie it up with some form of investment. So let me talk a little bit about Le Mouvement. Le Mouvement was launched 4 years ago by the chairman, and the idea was he was basically inviting anyone in the company who had an idea that's disruptive but didn't have time in the context of his or her daily activities to develop it and to seed it, to craft out some time, to have means to develop the idea and take it to fruition. So think of it as a giant incubator of some sort, and then the acceleration is done in between the departments that help a startup, for example, that's forming or that's being incubated to move to acceleration, such as the M&A department, the legal, the finance, and so forth. Or some of them can choose what we call Bloom Lab, which is a giant accelerator that's being built up to provide typically services of acceleration. And so to date, there's 180 projects that bubbled through Le Mouvement, and it's the 4th year, and I must say that I think more than 60% of the company is one way or the other directly involved in initiatives surrounding Le Mouvement. As far as the external pieces are concerned, so remember there's the external non-capitalistic and the external capitalistic. The capitalistic is through the CVC, Corporate Venture Capital, that we're setting up in the US, also through venture capital that the University Mohammed VI has set up in Ben Gurion that helps takes tickets in promising startups in various domains, and then the external non-capitalistic, I would say, is done also in partnership with the University Mohammed VI in a way to favor through incubators, accelerators, and partnerships, and sometimes simply just the environment of the longer time span of academia to nurture ideas, take them to fruition, test concepts. We have many features around the university, like an experimental farm, like a green energy park, where many things can be tested along with partners around the world, on top of the academic partners like MIT or French high schools and so forth. There's also practitioners of innovation around the world, like Mass Challenge, like Plug and Play recently. Everything does not happen only in Morocco. Obviously, there's the Africa test bed, but also in Brazil. In Brazil, we are one of the corporate founding partners of the AgTech Garage near Sao Paulo in Piracicaba, which hosts basically startups that want to accelerate in the field of agriculture. And that has become one of the largest incubator accelerator in the world. In terms of the KPIs, the way we measure it is first, as far as the internal setup is concerned, we make sure that the capabilities are being built, and we measure it also through startup formation. One example of such startup that is quite successful coming out of Le Mouvement is called OCP Maintenance Solutions. So the story of that one is an engineer that had the idea to take digital maintenance and predictive maintenance to the next level using data and analytics. The idea was seeded 4 years ago. They were a group of 2 or 3 people. Today, they're a full-fledged startup. They corporatized 6 months ago, and their revenue for the first year was $1.1 million, which is absolutely stunning. And today they're 20 people, and their average age is around 28, 30 years. So this is a 100% owned company by OCP, and hopefully it's going to develop in an exponential track in the next few years. The other way we measure KPIs is by the I'd say, the commercial opportunities that are brought by startups. So we have typically accelerated a few startups in Brazil that in turn help us to, for example, map or be better at soil mapping to understand nutrient deficiency and therefore to propose better fertilizers that are more customized to exactly what the soils and plants and crops need at the end of the day, making the application sustainable from the start. There's also a measurement that is very clear in the field of, I'd call it Industry 4.0 in our mining and fertilizer activities, in our production activities, whereby there we do measure KPIs such as cost reductions and efficiencies in logistics and in time to production, typically. And as we develop, as we incorporate the corporate venture capital in the US, obviously we will also measure the success by the standards of any CVC, by the traditional measures of the CVCs, but also through the contribution of these investments to the growth of OCP and its ecosystem. So one of the advantages of having open innovation for a century-old group like us and a large group like us is to benefit from the speed and agility that is brought by that ecosystem, basically. I'd say, remember, if I take the three components, which are the startups, the corporate, and the academia through University Mohammed VI, this is the way to play with all the different timings, so to speak, time spans. Startups act fast and are not burdened by legacy. The corporate acts in a longer term, but goes a little slower, I would say. And the academia helps us afford the really longer time of thinking of academia and of capitalizing on the deep research and knowledge. So combining these three, sometimes it is a great asset. Sometimes it's obviously a bit challenging. And I would say one of the major challenges that we have in open innovation is to match the various capabilities that we have in the group with the different attributes or the different features that startups might bring to the company, whether it's in Industry 4.0 or in digital agriculture and fertility. This is obviously a challenge, but we have started reorganizing deeply in the group by separating virtually the group into two big entities. One would be the core activities and one that's called growth activities. And so in a way, this reorganization helps a great deal in overcoming barriers to open innovation in our group. I guess in terms of areas or directions, priority directions for us are really around the power of digital and data applied to bring transparency on what the farms need. And so that helps us develop what we call customized fertilizers and grow almost exclusively in customized fertilizers in the next 10 years, which are basically customized to the needs of the exact needs of the soils, the crops, and any data that surrounds the farm, like climate and so forth. That way, we are establishing ourselves as a long-term partner of farmers around the world. So that's one area, digital ag. Then, as far as stewardship is concerned, we do want to consolidate our stewardship in terms of production by introducing not only a more circular economy, sustainability endeavors, and digital applied to Industry 4.0 to be able to transition and be much more agile as we progress. And I'd like to seize the opportunity to thank both Mind the Bridge and the International Chamber of Commerce for organizing the 2020 Corporate Startup Stars Award. OCP is truly honored to be included amongst the visionary companies that help shape the future and that are truly engaged and committed in advancing open innovation around the world.